My birth story is kind of weird. It's not weird, it's just not traditional, I guess. So I was 40 plus 4 days pregnant. At 40 plus 1, I was pretty tired of being pregnant. I actually enjoyed my entire pregnancy up until the day after 40 weeks. I was like, okay, I'm done. I woke up that morning, you know, for 4 or 5, actually for a couple weeks, like since 38 weeks, I've been bouncing on my yoga ball, you know, walking a ton, doing the curb walking. Like I was trying everything after it was safe and as advised by my midwives to get the baby out. So I woke up that morning, I was doing my yoga ball bounces, and I was like, you know what, I'm so sore. I was like, I really need a massage today, so I'm gonna go for a massage. So I booked that. I drove down there at 1 o'clock. Fun story. So I was pulling my little old red car out of the garage, and I'm not used to parking in a garage. I've never parked in a garage till we moved into this house. So I was pulling out forward, and I wasn't paying attention to the side mirrors, and I just whacked my side mirror off the side of the wall, and it like shattered. But I was so pregnant and so emotional that I immediately just started bawling my eyes out. I was like, this is the worst thing that could happen to me right now. I just want to go for my massage. So I called my husband, like in tears. I was like, I broke the mirror. I'm not going to be able to drive to my massage. This is the worst day ever. Once that was solved, I drove to my appointment and got my massage done for an hour. And she's like, okay, you're done now. You can sit up and get changed and then just come out and we'll cash you out. And I was like, okay. So I waited for her to leave, and then I sat up and I was like, did I just pee my pants? Like a little bit? Oh my God, no. That didn't feel like enough fluid to be my water breaking. Was that my water? Is my bladder like a little weak? I hadn't had any problems with that coming up to this point. So I was like, that's kind of weird. This feels weird. They said you'd know when your water breaks, but I'm really not sure. Anyway, my husband's like, okay, well, maybe just like go home and call the midwife. I went and we did the test, and lo and behold, it was my water that must have just broken like a very tiny bit. And it was just like a slow leak coming out. So she's like, okay, so you can go home, because I wasn't in labor. We'll kind of like reassess you tomorrow at this time, like so 24 hours after. So it had been 24 hours, hadn't gone into labor. Like, you know what, I think we're gonna just go for the induction, because we had all our stuff with us when we went in, because we weren't sure what was gonna happen. And my husband and I were both like, we're ready to go for it. So we got checked into the hospital. Hold on, I think she's waking up. Yep, she's awake. She's grumpy. Anyway, so my heart rate was up, her heart rate was up, so we couldn't do the induction yet. We had to wait for it to go down. So I was like on all the monitors, and I was on fluid because we thought it was dehydration. I'm drinking a lot of water and other fluids, and she did eventually like go back to baseline, so we were able to start the induction at 8 p.m., which was not ideal. This is mom life, people. So the induction itself wasn't that bad. I was really nervous about it going into it. Like I was nervous about the risks, and you hear like a lot of rumors about like higher rate of C-section, stuff like that. And we really talked it through before I did it. I'm not going to go into detail about that because that's like a personal choice and something you would decide with your provider. Where was I? Like mom brain so hard right now. It's like she's sucking the brain cells out of me. The worst part for me was when it got too much, like the pain was too much, and I was having like no breaks between contractions. It was just like continuous contractions. That was closer to like 6-7 centimeters. So for the first part of my labor, the contractions started to hurt, don't get me wrong, but it was bearable. Like we had a lot of coping methods that we tried, and Cody used like mostly like a massage roller on my back because I was feeling like a lot of contractions in my back in the early labor parts. So we did a lot of that, and that was really helpful. And I walked around a ton, and honestly, like I don't know what I would have done if I had to lay there the entire time. I know sometimes it's out of your control, but if it's not, I highly suggest just trying to stay mobile as long as you possibly can, because it makes coping so much easier. As soon as I had to lay down, or when I did take a break from moving around, because I got tired of moving around, like I had to sit for a bit, I would actually feel like more nauseous and just like sick from sitting and stuff like that. And now there's a big stain on my shirt, so I tried to walk around as much as I could, and then eventually when the contractions started to be like overlapping, I got to a point where I was like, I'd gone into my birth plan or birth wish list saying I do not want an epidural at all, like unless it's absolutely necessary. Well, I changed my mind real quick at that point just because I wasn't getting a break and it was extremely exhausting for me. So I did end up getting the epidural. It was about 7 centimeters dilated. The first like 6 centimeters took forever because I was only like 2 to 3 centimeters when I got induced, and I can't remember how effaced I was, to be honest. Like I don't remember any of that. It was like I had one thing in my mind, and that was like, get this baby out of me. But I was taking a long time at the beginning, and then right around like after midnight I started progressing like a little bit faster. And then once I got the epidural, I went from 7 to 10 like really quickly. And before I had got the epidural, I should mention that my water fully broke. I was walking around and it just kind of went poof, and I was like, that is what I expected it to feel like earlier, but it didn't. But then that was probably the turning point as to when my contractions got like a lot worse. Got the epidural. The epidural was not bad for me at all. The anesthesiologist came like almost right away, thank God, because I was like dying at that point. And he had me lay on my side instead of like sitting up and bending over. So that actually was a good experience for me because I was so nervous because they made my husband leave the room. I was so scared that it was gonna hurt and I was gonna cry or I wasn't gonna feel well. Yeah, so I got that and he put it in. I didn't even feel it go in. Unfortunately, it didn't work right away. We had to page the anesthesiologist to come back and reassess it, and of course he was in a C-section. I was so uncomfortable and nothing could help, and now I couldn't stand up, so I felt trapped. And then we realized that I wasn't pressing my button to kind of give myself bolus doses. So once I started doing that, it started working a lot faster. And I was giving them like when I felt a contraction coming on, and oh my God, it made a world of difference. By the time the epidural completely kicked in, it felt like a tiny period cramp, but it was so little that I took like a 2-hour nap. So when I woke up, we were getting ready to push. I woke my husband up. Just shout out to my husband, who was absolutely amazing throughout my entire birth, and he kept me happy and he was cheering me on, and the best was during the pushing, he was like my #1 cheerleader. So epidural, getting ready to push. I'm ready for this. Like I feel more rested now. I'm not as exhausted. I didn't feel as nauseous, blah blah blah. He like loaded up my water, my ice chips, so I was ready. I was a little nervous, like pushing scared me because I didn't want to tear. I didn't know what to expect, and everyone scared me because my whole pregnancy people were like, you're huge, you're gonna have a huge baby, even though I know that means absolutely nothing. I still in the back of my mind was like, what if this baby is gigantic? But I started pushing. I started to feel the urge like a little bit earlier, but like it wasn't like a full urge. It's just like I was starting to feel her like really getting down there. Once it started, we worked with the contractions. Like my midwives weren't telling me when to push. I was telling them when my body was telling me when to push. So that seemed to work really well. I pushed for about 2 hours. It was pretty long, but it wasn't as long as some other people. And baby was good the entire time. My contractions were really regular, so I was able to work with them. It was just like my first pregnancy, so it's normal for that to take a little bit longer the first time because it's never done it before. It was just following my contractions and pushing, and honestly the epidural made a huge, what I assume is a huge difference because I haven't given birth without an epidural. I didn't feel pain. Like everyone told me about the ring of fire and that kind of stuff, and I didn't feel that when she was crowning or anything. Like it felt like a lot of pressure, and when she was first coming down, the first couple of contractions, it was like in my right hip here. It was like kind of painful. Did you just fart? Oh my God, that smells so bad. Holy cow, you stink. I'd say the pushing part of my labor was actually the best part of the labor. It was like hard work though, like it was a workout. that was the worst part about it, is that I felt like I was so out of shape when I got to the end because I was exhausted. You don't realize how big of a workout labor and delivery is. Like, I was exhausted when I finished. So she pushed and her head finally came out, and I was like, oh my god, how much more work is going to be getting out the rest of her body? But it was actually super easy. It was one push and everything else came out. And they said, reach down and grab your baby. And I was like, what? This wasn't something I had ever wanted to do. In the moment, I was like, okay. And I pulled her up on me. I don't even remember her crying, and my husband said she barely cried. She was like, wah! And then she was fine. She pooped and peed as she was coming out. So they were like, well, you're all good for that. Like, no worries. Right? Did you do that? Yeah, you pooped and peed all over mummy. And then I brought her up on me, and the first picture we took, she's just looking right at the camera with her big dark eyes, and it was just, that was such an amazing moment. Like one of the first things I said to my husband was, I can't believe that this is what she looks like. Her nose looked exactly like it did in the ultrasound, but I had been wondering what she was gonna look like, and then I saw her and I was like, she's beautiful. So I was just like excited. I was happy. I was proud of myself. I was proud of my husband because he was so amazing, and I know he was nervous for the experience as well. So it was it was nice for us for that part to be done and to be like, I did it. My baby's farting so much. I had a baby, and she's beautiful and perfect. And looking back on the situation, I'd say with our next baby, I'd really like not to be induced if possible. Obviously my situation was kind of a weird one. If I have the choice, I would say I'd just wait till I go into labor naturally, because I'd really like to, one, experience that, and two, not have the overlapping contractions I got with induction. And would I get an epidural again? I'm not sure on that yet. Like, I enjoyed it because it made my contractions way better, and the pushing phase was just hard work. It wasn't painful for me. And the other bonus that I didn't mention is that I did have a small second-degree tear. I could feel her pulling on stitches when she was doing it, but I couldn't feel like any painful part of the stitches. It was just like an uncomfortable feeling because it was just starting to wear off at that point. So would I get one again? I don't know. The beginning of my labor, moving around was such a bonus for me. But if I was having contractions like I was with her, then I would definitely get it again. Like, it wouldn't even be a question. But there were like a lot of benefits for me personally getting it, and I didn't have any problems afterwards either. I was able to go to the bathroom at the 3-hour point. Overall, I had a pretty good experience. I think the best part was definitely when this little one came out, and she's not even looking. My big 8-pound, 13-ounce baby was born out of that, and she was beautiful, and yeah, it was a life-changing experience. It was not what I had expected in many ways, but it was good. There you go, Mugs, look! We call her Mugs sometimes. We call her many things. Anyway, she's getting restless, so this was fun. Different format. I'm used to writing. I probably ramble less when I'm writing because I can go back and edit it. Thank you!